Hello, everyone. This is Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and this is my show, the Wasteland Watchlist, here on the SPDM Crew podcasting network. And this is my show where each week, either myself and a guest decide to play movie roulette and randomly pick a film off my obscenely large watch list of over 8,500 films that could be possibly anything. It could be, they could be feature length narrative films, documentaries. They could be animated. They could be animated documentary short films. They could be anything. And joining me for this episode is frequent collaborator and member of the SPDM crew. It's Adam. Adam, thank you so much for coming on.
As always, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And let's talk about some dark, twisted movie, and that is Shock Corridor. This film was released September 11th, 1963, runs about 101 minutes, directed and written by Samuel Fuller, starring Peter Brock, Constance Towers, and Gene Evans. It's a journalist fakes mental illness to enter an asylum where a murder took place. And originally written in the 1940s as Straitjacket for Fritz Lang to direct. Lang wanted to make the lead a woman, and the studio's like, that's stupid. And then it never really got up off the ground. So, yes, sexism in the 40s. This was selected in 1996 for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. So, that is the backstory that I have. And the synopsis we have: bent on winning a Pulitzer Prize, a journalist commits himself to a mental institution to solve a strange and unclear murder. But Adam, what were your general thoughts on Shock Corridor?
Um, this is, as I wrote in my letterbox review, this is one of the most, or probably the most interesting film I think I've ever seen. Just from just the way it's conceived, the conceit of it, the reason he gets himself into the mental institution, as in the way he fakes getting in. It's such a random reason to to try and fake your insanity. And you could have chosen almost anything to get in there, but the fact that you want to have sex with your sister is a really strange thing, especially for 1963. I found that really interesting. And and at the end of the day, when it boils down to when he's actually in the insane asylum, just again a super interesting film and kind of quite a riveting watch. So that's my general-ish thoughts.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating dark premise. And yes, like this goes right into like feigning incest. And you're just like, oh shit. That's the kind of film that we're dealing with.
In 1963. It's crazy.
It is a very subversive kind of film. And you have this, and then you get into this asylum, and it's dark. Things start going a bit twisty for our main character, and trying to interrogate or interview, however you want to phrase it, these different people in the prison, and trying to get down to this. And this is a haunting looking film too, and it is a really unnerving experience watching this film and everything that's going on in it. And it's very bold in the fact that like this pushes a lot of boundaries for a thriller at this point in time. Like this would still, even like in 2024, makes a lot of people be like, whoa, what are you doing
absolutely.
here?
Yep.
And this unabashedly goes there, and it's shot so well in this black and white, the use of shadows and everything. Because like there's a lot of moments where it's just talking, but it's able to leverage some interesting visuals and ways to make the visual storytelling more interesting in that way. And it's dark, and there's some twisted things that go on, and this really puts a spotlight on what we perceive of like mental health support. And like this is 1963. Mental health support back then was a very different thing than it is today.
Yeah. It was shock corridor for that reason, right? Shock therapy.
Yep. And because like this film is what 12 years before One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, somewhere around there.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
like obviously this takes a very different approach to that kind of story. And it's
Hmm.
interesting because you have the protagonist who obviously he's trying to solve a murder. He's trying to find what he wants to do is going to find justice for what happened to this person. But that's not why
Hmm.
he's doing it. And it's like he wants to win these awards, he wants to get these accolades, and the fact that he'd be willing to do something so perverse and
Mm.
morally bankrupt for society at that time, to just be like, you are a disgusting human being, you complete another psychopath, get in this asylum. um
Mm.
the fact that he's willing to do that to his own reputation for the sake of him
Yeah.
getting this story, that says a lot about this character. And
He's
I think,
ambitious.
yes, his ambitions have no bounds because he's willing
Yeah.
to do some really crazy things. And Peter Breck, not Brock,
Yeah.
who plays Johnny Barrett here, like this is a challenging protagonist for us to get behind, because like we're
Mm-hmm.
not 100% sure we're okay with, like, obviously we want this murder to be solved, but like what he's doing to try to solve it is kind of icky. And
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously has he doesn't really have any kind of sense of like, oh, what bad could this do to me going through
Yeah.
this situation, but he's willing to do it. And that's what's so fascinating about it.
Yep. Yeah. It's just the fact that he wants to solve a murder and he wants to win a Pulitzer Prize for it. And then, yeah, to put himself through that and to, like you said, ruin his own reputation because, well, how he ends up as well is it's a big deal also.
Because like this is not like a clean film. This is not
No.
like this is all going to work out. And not only did he try to feign incest with his quote unquote sister,
Mm.
but he's dating an exotic dancer
Yeah.
and gets his girlfriend to pretend to be his sister,
Yeah.
and like without much thought of like what that would do to her and
Hmm.
like her feelings and stuff like that. And what's fascinating is when he starts interviewing these different witnesses and their stories. Like this whole thing, he
Yeah.
was like uh captured behind like enemy lines in Korea, brainwashed and stuff like this, and dealing with those different kinds of things, or um deals with like breaking up segregation and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of different kinds of interesting things that he goes through here. And like this one character psychologically traumatized by the abuses suffered and now imagines himself as a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Well, he
this
doesn't he
I'm
say
like
he created the Ku Klux Klan? He
mhm.
like he yeah says he created it.
And
Nuts.
like this guy is like a joke from the Chappelle show, because
Yes.
I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
distinctly remember that gag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is like dealing with some really heavy trauma and abuse, and like the last one's
Mm.
atomic scientist. um and it's just all these different kinds of things that this film is dealing with. And it's it's intense, it's thrilling, it's well staged, it's well shot. It's just
Hmm.
this is a pretty engrossing and haunting kind of film that
Yeah.
pushes a lot of different kinds of buttons with a lot of taboo topics. And I think this film is very daring for what it's trying to do.
100%. Yeah. It is a very bold filmmaking, especially for its time, 60 years ago now. So yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree with that.
And even like the revelations on like why this murder happened and stuff like that, and just
Yeah.
the motivations in terms of like the context of just the abuse that could happen in these types of
Hmm.
places. And like this is not the kind of film that you get out easy. with.
No,
Like, this does not have a
no,
happy end.
no,
And
definitely
I don't
not.
think you would expect that from a film called Shock Corridor, right?
Well, no, well, no. I mean, no. But in saying that, I kind of didn't expect it to end up the way it did, though, either.
It's shocking, and it subverts a lot of expectations of what you would expect a film like this to go through, like
Hmm.
plotting wise. And it's this film is F around and find out embodied for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it's like, how to what places will that ambition take you? And
yeah,
will you regret it? And I'm
yeah.
just gonna go out on a limb here, and I think Johnny regretted it.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Which that would be even darker if he didn't.
He might not
It's
even
like,
know he regretted it. He might not even be aware of his regret, actually.
well, and I think that's one of the more harrowing elements of like how this film plays out. But like this
Mm,
this is this is a film that definitely would not have come out in the 50s, but is, I
no.
think, starting to push those boundaries that a lot of films in the mid to late 60s started shaking up. And then you get the 70s, which was a whole new ball game.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
I think this
this is
film's a
post Hays Code, isn't it? It's post Hays Code, yeah?
Mhm.
I'm pretty
I
sure.
would
Sorry.
expect so. I don't think this would have
Yeah.
gotten through some of the restrictions in
No,
terms of the Hays
because
Code.
there's some quite raunchy for the 60s stuff, like the what is she, a stripper, but the dancer, like just what
Yeah.
she's wearing, like you wouldn't have seen that in the 50s. No way.
Oh yes, there's a lot of eroticism here, and I think
Yeah.
it's all of it's so very specific. Like, it's on purpose how
Mm.
this is written, that he's dating an exotic dancer.
Hmm.
Like, there's supposed to be a lot of morally gray layers in this story that pulls this all together the way that it does.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so Adam, was there anything else that stood out to you that you wanted to mention about Shock Corridor?
Um, I don't think so. No, I mean, I've just looking at my notes, and I think I've said everything I needed to say, or you've covered it off for me. So yeah, no, it's oh look, it's a recommend, an absolute
Yeah.
recommend to watch. Yeah, but just expect darkness. Uh,
Yeah,
60s
don't go in
darkness.
expecting to have a fun time. This is not
No,
that kind
no,
of movie.
not
Um,
no.
I also see that this has, or at least at one point was released on Criterion.
Oh
Interesting.
yeah, okay, okay.
The cover of it's kind of creepy. Actually, it's actually a very interesting cover. Very interesting. I would recommend checking out what it looks like. But those are our thoughts on Shock Corridor here on another episode of the Wasteland Watchlist. But Adam, thank you so much for coming on and chatting some movies with me.
No, thanks for having me. It's always a delight.
Even when the movie certainly is not one. Like this one. But
Fair.
most importantly, thank all of you out there. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's that film that you really like that shows, like how mental illness has been treated over the years, or some of those like dark, twisted films that push boundaries? Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We have a lot of great content here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network, whether it's about movies, television, sports, music, physical media, comic books, or, just talking about life with Luke, and all
Hmm.
kinds of great shows. So check them out. And if you like our logo, go check out HiFlyer Creative. They do some great work. And if you're in need for any digital marketing needs, go check them out. But most importantly, thank you all for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.